This is show versus business, where pop culture meets pop money. We host the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja. So, Mr. Benja, what's been going on this week?
Somebody who isn't in good with legal standings with Disney is the family of the Moff Tarkin actor. Lucasfilm sued for recreating Grand Moff Tarkin actor Peter Cushing's image in Rogue One. This is from IGN. And Cushing died in 1994, and Lucasfilm is now being sued because they used his likeness and they 3D-ified him up, made him look a little younger in Rogue One, and apparently they're saying they didn't have permission. I don't know. You hear about this, Theo?
Yeah, I think I saw it on the interwebs as well. So I'm like, why did this come up now? Because didn't Rogue One come out like 5, 6 years ago or something like that? But it looks like Disney tried to get the case dismissed for a second time, but they failed at September 9th. So now it got released into the public. So it probably was a lot of lawyers doing lawyer stuff.
Yeah.
Had a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Like, oh, do you want? Gonna give you some money. Let's settle. We're Disney. You'll never be in Disney again. The good and the bad cop and the bad cop thing to get the family to dismiss the case. But family persisted, and so now it became public record, and so now everyone knows what happened.
Yeah, and apparently Disney wanted them to shut up. They just shut up, because later on in the article it says Lucasfilm claims it didn't think it needed permission to recreate his image due to his original contract. Wait, his original contract was in 1977. I'm not sure people would have been able to understand recreating his image. Are they going to put some other guy in a costume maybe, but actually physically recreating him in 3D? That is an interesting argument. I want to see what that legalese is. But Disney said it didn't think it had to and decided to pay them $37,000 to just shut up.
Shut up. Go
Yeah.
away.
They did.
They get
Apparently.
nah. You know what? This is another thing. Did you see this other story? This is similar lines. People just going after Disney. This couple, you heard of the Club 33 in Disneyland? Have you heard of that club?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's an exclusive club for people. They pay $31,000 a year. And then to start getting to their Disney fix. So if you're a super Disney fan, you pay this, you go to the exclusive club, you go to Disneyland, you get to ride all the rides, front of the line, you get to sit there and have coffee and drinks and hang out with folks. You get like tickets all the time to invite people. So there's one couple, they got kicked out of the 33 club, and they've been trying for the last, I think it's 7 years or so last 12 years, try to get back into it. And they spent $400,000 to sue Disney to try to get back into the club, and they fail, and they're not giving up. It's hilarious, man. So shows you like Disney is weird, man. It's like they get a hold of you and I'm a Disney fan. I'm saying this as a Disney fan, but I see what they do. They get a hold of when you're young and you built that nostalgia in you. And then you get older and you don't want to share with your kids, or you just like, man, I want to go back to that time. So you go to Disney and enjoy it. But then you realize how evil they are because they do things like this, right? Got to prevent you from getting back into the thing that you love. Or we talked about that couple that got the husband that's trying to sue Disney, or they take things away. And then we know how litigious they are, right? If you do anything that's opposed to their image and their IP, they go after you wholeheartedly. Whether you're like a guy in Times Square wearing a Mickey Mouse suit, they'll slap you for $1 million suit. So it's just, yeah, man, it's weird, man. They just, like I said, not saying that they're totally evil, but there's some, I don't know, some sprinkles of evilness in there, man. I don't know. What do you think about this? This is just hilarious, man. Just this couple spent more money trying to get back into a club that they got kicked out of that they felt was unfair.
From the Hollywood Reporter, the Andersons, both 60, have been together for 44 years. They waited 12 of those years to receive their Club 33 invitation, shelling out $50,000 for their first year dues alone. They got their money's worth, however, using the club's upwards of 80 days per year. By their 5th year of membership, the magic was fading. New managers took over, their favorite chef was gone, and they were repeatedly slapped with member violations. I'm wondering what you do to get a member violation in Club 33, but I don't know. the worst of them came in September 2017 when Scott was discovered by park security keeled over a bench in California Adventure. It's- Who is this drunkard? Sir, he's a part of Club 33. That
Oh, hell
bastard.
no. He's out. He's out. Kick him out.
Can't hold your liquor? Yeah. Oh, man. Park guard said he smelled alcohol on his breath.
I love it, man. You know what? Look, and I get it, man. Look, I think I made it known on this podcast. I'm a Disney pass holder. It makes sense, right? You go a couple of times a month. That more, Disney price is $100 a pop. So if you're paying a couple $100 to keep your Disney pass holder passes, just makes sense, right? Just to go 3-4 times. I can
Yeah.
imagine if I was Disney 33 and I'm paying that much money, that I need to at least go. If you're paying $30,000 a month or annually, so what's that, like roughly $2,000 a month? You got at least go 10 times a month in order to make
Yeah.
your money. So why not? And they said it was part of their whole social club, and obviously there's some money making things because they have exclusive that they can buy that no one else can get, and they can sell it on eBay or something, or
Yeah.
they can sell their tickets so for folks to get in. So it was a money making operation too, man. So don't get it twisted. But yeah, man. So anyway, I digress. I know I put down a rabbit hole when you talked about Disney and just suing and all this stuff. It just like that. Yeah, it's the cracks. And we didn't even talk about this on the notes, Mr. Benjamin, but there was a big 30,000 word article about the behind the scenes of the Bob Iger and Bob Chapek fiasco. I thought I didn't send it to you, but I think we were going to talk about it. But it was every kind of shit show, let's just say it, that we thought about. It was even worse, man. Just simple things like they were on a plane trying to be prepared for their board meeting. Chapek comes to Iger and says, "Hey, can you help me with this presentation?" Iger retired at that point in time. Says, "Hey, take a look at my boat, my suit. Let's talk about that right now." Chapek gets pissed, goes in the back of the plane and starts looking at the binders and preparing by himself. Then when Iger finally comes back out there and says, "Hey, you want to talk about it?" Chapek says, "Nah, I'm good." Then Iger gets pissed. So it's just, what are we doing here? Why?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is shenanigans on a private jet to a board meeting where they can't even get along to communicate. And basically they said Iger pretty much mean girled Chapek the whole 2 years he was there, basically saying snide remarks, talking to everybody he could about how terrible job Chapek is doing, even though Iger picked Chapek to succeed him. So it's just crazy, man. The shenanigans that go on at Disney, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
don't, yeah.
now they're fighting with DirectTV.
Oh, man. Do we want to get into that right now, man? This is so much money involved in this. Mr.
Yeah, we got
Benji,
to
you
toss
don't
some money.
have cable. You don't have cable, do you?
I cut the cord a while back, man. Had to do it.
Yeah, so I have DirectTV. That's like my last stitch of cable, right? I don't have a cable box or anything, but I got this DirectTV that comes up on my phone, right? So that's how I get access to my ESPN, my
Yeah.
ABCs, my NBCs. So I'm coming and said, okay, wow, man, I'm about to sit down and watch this Monday Night Football, man. ESPN. I'm ready to watch it, man. It's gonna be a good game. So I turn it on, blackout. This television show has been blacked out because of Disney. If you're mad, call Disney. We're doing the best we can to help you. DirectTV. I'm like, what the hell? So, Mr. Benjamin, I don't know if you remember back in the day, there used to be these carriage fights every so often where the content provider, like a Disney, a Fox, a Universal, and the distributor, which is Cox, Spectrum, or DirectTV, will
Okay.
get into these fights because DirectTV, Cox, and all them, they pay licensing to have all these content providers provide their content on their cable networks. Some cases, like DirectTV, was paying $2 billion a year to access Disney content. The challenge has been lately is that they're saying, I don't want to pay that much. DirectTV and those guys, they don't have any money anymore. People, like you just said, you're cord cutting. People are cord cutting left and right. They're like, what's the point of having cable anymore? So these guys is like, why are we paying $2 billion for all this stuff that Disney's giving us? I'm talking about like Freeform, Disney Channel. Nobody's watching that crap no more. I just want ESPN. Why are you giving me all this other stuff? So you make me pay $2 billion because you're going to give me 10 channels, and really I just need one. And so now they're like, this is not going to sustain itself. They are already losing money. And
Yeah.
at the same time, let's be honest, Disney is building their own streaming services, right? So that means they're getting double dipping on that content. They produce it one time, they get licensing fees to the cable companies, plus they have their direct to consumer model where they're actually getting paid by you, right, and me to
Yeah.
get access to the Disney content. And some of that content don't even show up on the cable companies, right? So
Yeah.
like they're pissed. So this is what this is about: money and access to viable content that their consumers want. And so, yeah, man, there's been a blackout for 13 days. They always do it. Check it out. Look up the history. Every around fall, when football season starts, you see this blackout happen, like religiously, because
Yeah.
this is the time to get the customers up in arms, because football, as we discussed last week, is a
Uh-huh.
religion. And so if you take football away, people get pissed.
Yeah. I'm just looking through the interwebs right now. DirectTV, and people just talking. DirectTV and Disney reach a new deal. All channels, ESPN, etc., will be immediately restored. And people are like, "Yay!" Some people are like, "Boo!" Said which side conceded? It's like too much. This guy. One guy's like, "Too late. I switched to YouTube TV."
It was something that had to happen. So, according to Deadline, they said they ended a 13-day carriage impasse, restored ABC. That was the other thing. I couldn't watch the debate, which was hosted by ABC on ABC. I had to go watch
Right.
it on CNN. So it was like I went to
Oh,
ABC. I was like, what happened? So ABC, ESPN, and 14 other networks in time for Saturday college football games and Sunday nights Emmy telecast. That's the other thing. I wouldn't, if they didn't get past the dispute, I wouldn't be able to watch the Emmys and give my review of what happened at the Emmys. That I do every year. I might dress up this year, Mr. Benj. I don't know. I might put a tux on for it for you folks. I don't know. Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, it will return to series. So basically, what they got out of the deal agreement gives DirecTV rights to distribute Disney's upcoming ESPN flagship direct-to-consumer service, right, upon its launch at no additional cost to DirecTV customers. That's all DirecTV wants, right? Give me that bundle that you're going to sell to your other people. Give it to me for free.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to get. So I think DirecTV was able to get what I think they won. This is awesome because they're like, we're not going to subsidize you, giving you $2 billion a year for content that nobody's really watching. I want the good stuff and I want to give it to my people for free. So that way we can help our bottom line. In Disney, you can still sell your direct to consumer stuff, but you're not bothering us. So this is a classic business case, guys. If you ever know about business, it's always about the distribution versus the producer. And then what we learned in business school was like, you got the people who create something, but then they need the distribution channels to get it out. And so you always have issues with that. So that's why you see sometimes like Costco or even Amazon have their own production line. I think at Costco or what's it called? Sam's Club. I forgot Kirkwood. Yep. They call it Kirkwood.
Kirkland.
Private label. Kirkland. Thank you. Private label. They control the product and they control the distribution. So guess what? They can lower the cost. So you want to buy you can still buy your Fruit Loops with the brand Kellogg, or you can buy Kirkland Fruit Hoops for like $1 less.
Yeah.
Because they control the distribution and the production. And so Amazon, we talked about Amazon, what they do. They look at what's popping, then they come out. What's their Amazon? What's their brand called? I forgot what's
Amazon
called.
Basics.
Basics, yeah. They create their own version of it because they now control the production and the distribution. Because the cable companies can't control production, then they have to figure out a way to maximize more value from the content providers. But the content providers, as we know, have their own distribution channel, which is streaming services now.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on, man. So anyway, it's business 101. So that's why I wanted to talk about it today. And this is show versus business. So that's what's going on in the world of streaming.
Yeah. And it's wild. And by the way, if you're on Amazon, most of their stuff is listed like Amazon Basics, Amazon Essentials, Amazon Elements. They're starting to change up the names, like Target, like Walmart. So the guys are starting to change up the names. So you might be buying stuff, but you don't know it's from Amazon. Mama Bears, Lark and Row, Daily Ritual, Penzon. It's like Solimo. I said, I bought me a new Solimo. Me bought
What did they say? That the easiest thing to do, what I think Alex Hormozy said that. So when you ain't selling something, change the name. Don't change nothing else about the product. Just change the name.
Who there was some company I'm thinking about that pioneered it where they had the high price one and then the other ones, and they just keep fudging around with the name, the packaging, and the size and the
Yeah.
presentation. And you
Car
pick up
companies do it. Yeah, car companies do the same thing. You got
yeah,
Lexus and you got Nissan. No, was it Lexus and Toyota?
yeah.
They do the same thing.
And that I can actually respect because that's like a different product. You're
Yeah,
not
good
getting
point.
you're getting a Lexus versus a Camry versus a Corolla. You
Yeah.
can start to, okay, these are different Toyota models and okay, whatever. But with some of the stuff, it's I found something in the dollar store, in the 99-cent store. I'm like, this is a lot like what they sell at Sprouts. I walked in there and bought some chips, right? And I was like, yeah, veggie chips, whatever. I was like, this is a lot like what they have at Sprouts. I did the research, same thing. At Sprouts, I pay 5 times more for these veggie chips than I do, and they're at the dollar store.
Hey man, send that to me, man. I might get those things. I know exactly what you're talking about, Sprouts, man. Give it to me. Sprouts is overpriced for no reason, so don't let me get started on that.
I love Sprouts. Don't badmouth
Yeah,
Sprouts.
it's expensive. What? No, we're not gonna pass over this.
Okay, okay.
You
But
know it's
you
expensive.
go to
You know it is.
you go to Sprouts only to get the produce and the deli. Everything else is way too expensive. If you get the produce, like their actual name, Sprouts, buy some apples, buy some cucumbers, you'll be like, "Oh, wow, I'm saving money." Once you step into the cereal aisle, you're broke. Once you step into the any other aisle, you'll just be broke. So
Okay.
stick to your Sprouts in Sprouts.
All right. Love it.
All right, what else we got? Which one jump on?
Yeah, I don't know, man. So many things. You want to do the internet shenanigans?
Yeah, let's
Just
go
a
through the
wild
shenanigans
card. Yeah, it's
because
a wild card.
people doing stuff online and maybe they shouldn't be doing it. I don't know.
We've been talking about marketing,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, still about that. We're grinding on that, differentiating, becoming a category, know and trust, all that good stuff. But man, it's about the dollars, man. And so I'm out here setting up cold callers, man. We calling these doctors, getting them on the phone, say, hey, how you doing? Let's get this popping, man. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's just interesting, man, because it's funny. They've already shown interest through some of our marketing materials, but they're
Mhm.
just so busy. And so you just have to get their attention quickly so that you can get a call with them and then position your offer. And it's pretty tough, man, but you can do it. It's just, and by doing it the last couple of weeks, I'm seeing an uptick in the number of proposals we're doing. And so we're starting to scale that team on my business so we can
Okay.
accelerate sales.
Who you listening to? Dan Henry, Cardone, your boy Byron, Myron
No,
Golden. Yeah.
man. No, man. Those guys are okay, man. I need the new stuff. I need the what's working now stuff, man. So I found these guys on YouTube. I can't remember their names, but the name of the podcast is called shout out to them, 30 Minutes to President's Club. And they give you the latest and greatest tools on how to get through the noise if you're doing cold calling or cold email, just to disrupt the patterns that people listen to. And they
Mhm.
back it up with data. I don't know if you heard of a tool called Gong, but it really gets
Mm.
into how do you it's basically recorded sales calls. And so basically they have data around, okay, this opening works best 20% of the time. Or if you leave a voice message and it's in the email, your open rates go up by 20%. So it's just like they have data backed by the methodology. And it's they literally dropped this book maybe a couple of months ago. So Cardone, look, the fundamentals, principles, they never change. But I need the latest data, man. I was like, look, give me the stuff that works now. I got
Yeah.
time for the that worked in 1992. Yeah,
Interesting.
man. So those are the things that I want to make sure that the people understood about, man. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that
Huh.
out and understand what's the latest and greatest information on how to get people's attention quickly because they don't know who you are and they
Yeah.
try to set you up. Hold on one second. And then, yeah, man. So that's my goal and trying to figure all that out. Yeah, I apologize. My daughter's calling me as we're doing this podcast. So I just want to text
Hey,
her real
hey,
quick.
daughter calls, man. No, I was just looking at these guys, and yeah, it's funny. If somebody finds an angle or a way to do things, now you can just really get out there and start connecting. And
Mhm.
okay, now I'm looking into what they're doing. Yep, they've got AI involved also. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
this is
two
pretty cool.
young guys. Yeah, two young guys. Both of them. One worked in tech sales, and one worked like old school insurance sales and stuff like that, doing
Mhm.
old school cold calling, and they get the metrics around what it takes to get people. Because I'm just trying to accelerate sales. So a lot of them express interest, but they just so busy they forgot about it or whatever.
Mhm.
So just once you have a conversation with them, then they slow down a little bit and you disrupt that pattern and then they're open to listening to you. So anyway, so it's just something that just adds to repertoire to accelerate things. So that's what I've been kind of experiment with over the last 2 weeks, and it did pretty well. So next week we're bringing on some more team members to accelerate that.
You ever bum rush somebody, like show up at their office or sit outside their house in the car?
Hey, I go to doctor's office, hey man, all the time, brother. What do you think I'm doing next week, man? I'm about to be up in there, man. Say, hey, we sent you this
Nice.
proposal. What's up? Oh, okay. It's a borderline. You want to be professionally persistent, right? So
Yes.
you don't want to, just be obnoxious. But look, man, people are busy. I get it. I'm busy. But if that person is taking the time, they'll literally close a deal. I had to do 2 lunches and show up at the office like 4 times and it was local here in Tampa. So I wanted to experiment to see how long it took. So it does work. You just have to be persistent. And most people are just not that persistent. And then once you get through that, then they're like, okay, either I don't want to do it or don't. I got to at least tell this guy no, or we're going to do it. It gets to a point where this guy ain't going away.
Yeah, I wasn't in sales at the time. I was in development, and I was working with. I'll go ahead and say I don't have a problem with it. I was talking to Sony, and I was trying to get Sony's attention, and I'm like, from everything I've heard of, I'm your boy. I'm the guy. What they messing around for? From everything I've heard, from people I've talked to, from the website description, from our pre-interview chats, I'm like, screw this. GDC is coming up, the Game Developers Conference. I'm going to fly out there. I thought I was having a good little discussion, but it really wasn't. It wasn't popping like I wanted it to. So I was like, all right, let me just fly up there. I didn't tell them I was coming. I just flew up there. So I flew up there, Game Developers Conference. I go in and start talking to Sony. The ladies, okay, yeah, we got your resume and all this. We talked to you. I see you talk to this guy over here and this guy over here. All right, thank you very much. I'm like, all right. And she did not push me out of the way, but did a little forced move and moved me out. I'm like, okay.
These are not the drawers you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. These are not the recruiters you need. Yeah, like, all right, whatever. So Sony, if anybody knows, like at GDC and these events, Sony has a big booth. So what I did is I calmly walked out the side and said, thank you very much. Thank you. Shook some people's hands on the way out. Immediately doubled back around the booth, all the way around the back side of it. And then I came underneath they had little ropes. I came underneath the ropes and and they were like, hey, you can't come through here. I was like, hey, I just talked to that guy right there. And they said this and that and this and that. And by the way, I'm Benjamin Johnson. And they're like, oh yeah, we were talking to you. And I got to the people who I actually sent my resume to and I was actually talking to over email, but I couldn't get to them because the gatekeeper tried to stop me the literal gatekeeper tried to stop me at the front gate to the Sony booth. So I'm up in there talking to these dudes and I'm like, I got to drop the elbow on them. Yeah, I started dropping all types of knowledge. I pulled out pen and paper, started explaining how some processes could be done. I got so raw in that moment. They had to stop stuff and were like, hey, Mike, come over here. All right, Benjamin, tell Mike what you told me right now. I did it again. It just told him the process. And Mike was like, holy crap. Mike's a made up name. Holy crap, we got to call Dave over. Dave, and they called him over. So I did this presentation like 6 times in the Sony booth. It just had a crowd of people around while I was like dropping all this knowledge and doing all this stuff on pen and paper. How about, I didn't know it at the time, but this whole thing ended up getting around the whole convention floor. Like people who knew me were like, hey, yeah, I saw you over at the Sony booth. So somebody said there was this guy just waving his hand and talking and doing all this stuff. That was you. It's like, yeah.
Love it.
In the mix.
In the mix, man. Raw dog and in the mix. It's a mix of both a little bit, right? I have a similar story that happened to me when I first got my internship at Cisco Systems. I had I heard they're going to be at a conference. I went to the booth and the recruiter, the little gatekeeper, she said, oh yeah, we got your resume, come back. And it's like, looking at the stack to the left, it's like a pile of resumes. My resume is probably 1 of 1,000. I said, oh no, this will not last. So I came back and started chopping my mouth and then end up meeting the hiring manager that eventually hired me as an intern to go out there to California for the summer to be with Cisco. And so that just changed my life. And I was able to, leverage that once I got into Cisco, leverage that to find out all the other things that I could do and got into one of the big top programs that they had there for incoming students. But yeah, man. People don't realize, man, being that and I think this generation doesn't get it. I talk to my nieces too. It's just, oh yeah, put my resume and then call me back. I'm like, did you reach out again? No, because they know what I'm about. No, they don't.
Nope.
You gotta
No,
be
no.
persistent. You gotta step out the norm. You gotta reach out to them multiple times. You gotta find out who they know. If you really want something, you really have to go get it. And I think
Dog.
that their percentage is so little now, man. It's so sad.
Yeah, dog. I was going through like credits list of old games, finding these people, and you know how usually a company will have a certain email format, like
Yep.
first name dot last name or
Yeah.
first initial dot
At
last name
yeah,
at
at
whatever
Sony
dot
or
com.
Cisco.com. Yep.
Man, I was like, "Hey, I saw you did work on this game. I really like that. Thanks for all you're doing." And if they said, "Oh, thank you very much." Yeah, listen, I sent in a resume. I don't know if it's got through the system. Man, I was all up in that cheese.
Man, you know what? And guess what, man? They didn't have we didn't have LinkedIn back then. We didn't have all these cold email permutations that can just send automatic emails out to people. Imagine we had that tools like they have now to reach out to people.
Yeah,
You can find there's no excuse to reach. You can reach anybody you want now. It's
yeah.
just a matter of your desire to do.
Batman, happy Batman Day, my friend.
Oh yeah, happy Batman Day, man. What? No Black Batman weekday?
Apparently, it did not catch on in the Midwest states. We got to do more work to get it nationally recognized.
Yes,
Black
yes.
Batman
Everyone,
Week.
shout out Black Batman Week. We're gonna have it. It's coming back, guys. Batwing, Black Batwoman. We need more Black Bat. Just nothing else. We need more alliteration in our lives. So yes, more for that. But yeah, man, this is whoever recorded. I don't know why September 21st. I was trying to look that up. I don't think that was the first issue of Batman, was it? I don't know why they came up with that date. It just seems pretty arbitrary. But yeah, anyway, so Batman Week Day is today. So the celebration of all things Batman got he's the first superhero to get his Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is pretty cool. We got, and there was so many different Batman versions, right? We got the Adam West TV show. We got Michael Keaton when he was Batman. We got the Batman from what's his name? Nolan Oppenheimer guy. What's his name? The director. Why am I drawing blank right now?
Chris Nolan?
But yeah, Chris Nolan. Thank you. Christopher Nolan, the Batman Begin, Batman Returns series. Batman Returns is arguably probably the best superhero movie ever. And then we got the most recent, The Batman. And that's been, and it seems like all of them are pretty decent. They've all got pretty good reviews. And I think it's because Batman is just so universal. Basically, he's just a regular dude and his superpower is having money. And so imagine if we just talked about these billionaires using their money and influence for foul things. But what if you just were that deranged? They use your power and influence to be a positive force for the world. And I think that's a hopeful sign, right? That we
Yeah.
always put Batman up so high that there could be at least one that's so messed up that he's gonna put on the bat suit one day and go fight crime instead of doing freak offs. That's what we want from our billionaires, man. Oh, James, you gotta put that in there. We want billionaires that fight crime and not do freak offs, man. We gotta have that. That's the new slogan for New Year.
Good and damn well Bruce Wayne be having freak off. Got it with it. All the crazy stuff he sees.
Batman's so scarred emotionally, man. I don't even think the S is even that important to him anymore, man. He'll go on these dates, man. He'll just be like, I gotta stop Riddler. It's just this thing,
Hey,
man.
man, he's got a control complex. I'm just saying.
Yeah, good point. I'd be curious, man. If we did have real life superheroes, would we have also super villains? I'm wondering because they said it's always the yin and the yang, right? That one
Yeah,
can exist without the other. So we really had somebody who was singly focused on stopping crime. Because you remember the way they set up Batman too was genius. Because remember when they first did it, they said no one would believe this character walking around doing whatever. So he didn't really fight supervillains. He fought like mob bosses, right? Remember
yeah,
the Falcones and the Karma was the other Salvatores, right? He
yeah,
fought these mob bosses in Gotham initially, and then eventually evolved into the Joker and other folks. So I'm
yeah,
curious. I wonder if that would be similar here. It was like the criminals be like, man, we got this guy out here, man, he gone crazy. We need to go crazy too. What you
yeah,
think?
yeah. No, I agree with that. I think there's definitely a yin and yang, a balancing of the force. You know, we thought you were the chosen one kind of aspect going around.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be cool to see that, man. But it's weird too because like when Batman was created, that's another man. I'm getting very philosophical. I don't know why, but when Batman was
Mhm.
created, cities was such a big city was such a unique thing, and it still is. Don't get me wrong. If you live in a big city, it is of a thing. But because we have this internet thing, it doesn't seem like we're part of the city anymore. Our culture is not really. I'm from New York. I like Batman, or I'm the culture of a Republican. It's not like
Yeah.
your tribe is no longer. I'm a New Yorker. There's some pieces of that, but it doesn't seem as strong as it used to be. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Could there be like a
Yeah, I
city
just
superhero?
yeah, I just don't think they push it. I think they're trying to hit on different angles rather than a more social based thing. I think they're going for a more vibe, feel, demographic that can exist anywhere. But part of the reason I really got into Spider-Man and some of the stuff is because, hey, no, he's telling a New York story. It's a New Yorker telling from his point of view. I didn't care about I don't know anybody out in African fields and meadows, but nevertheless, I'm watching Black Panther. Cool, I rock with that guy and where he's from. I actually want to see, hey, he comes from this place. This person comes from this place. And when I saw like Gotham City and Metropolis, I thought these were great ideas to build from. But you're right. You're totally right. It doesn't seem like they're pushing that anymore. I don't like it.
Yeah. It's because we don't live like that anymore. You and I have been talking for several years and said we're next door neighbors, but we live across the country. And so it just
Well,
and
that would
we
give you
and we
more.
have people that follow us. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that would give you, in terms of just telling stories, I think that would give you more personality. Hey, this and this happened today. And it's, oh my God, what? Hippopotamus ran across the street? Where do you live? You know?
Yeah. I don't know, man. So it's interesting how these stories are evolving and wonder how superheroes will evolve to that. But yeah, so Batman, man, just an interesting character, man. Spider-Man's my number one. Batman's my number two. It's like Batman is like Spider-Man. Batman is who we didn't have superpowers, who we would
Mhm.
be. Spider-Man, who if we did have superpowers, who we actually would be, right? Because he's always messing up.
Yeah.
Batman's the ideal. Spider-Man is who we actually would be, right? And so I think that's always the dichotomy I look at the two superheroes. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
Batman is in these streets doing the good thing. So there's a new TV show that just came out, Mr. Benja. Have you heard of it? The Penguin?
Yes, I've heard of the penguin. And I like this meme that you sent me. Okay. For Mad Men, it's like, all right, Tony Soprano, but he's a penguin. I don't even know what the Penguin show is about, but I've seen the still images and you throwing up that Mad Men meme of the 60s advertising with Tony Soprano, but a penguin. That had me laughing. Is that what it's like? Tell me about this show.
Man, you know what? I came in just low expectations. Obviously, I'm hearing first of all, let's start there. When the Batman came out, the movie, you saw the movie, of course. And so what did you think of Colin Farrell, who's this good-looking guy, putting all this makeup on, a fat suit to play this, and he's not even from America. He's from I think he's from not England, but he's from somewhere. And he's got this rough kind of New York accent. What do you think? What did you think of the character when you first saw it in the Batman?
I actually think that made sense. I was like, okay, cool. That makes sense. I don't know why he has such a penguinish weirdness to him. I think he can still be weird. I think you can play with that, but the fish hands angle and all that was just goofy. And not that it didn't make sense, but I like what Colin Farrell's doing.
Yeah, he's definitely a handsome guy and everything, and he's supposed to be the next big actor,
Mhm.
but he's just really just one of those character actors, right? Let's be honest, probably Robert Downey Jr. could have been Colin Farrell, right? It's so funny. You look at the sliding doors of it all with all these different actors, like who could have got a
Yeah.
role here, who because Robert Downey Jr., let's be honest, is a character actor. He just happened to find the best character in Iron Man, but he could play different roles and different
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that. He did for many years before he got Iron Man. So it's the sliding doors of everybody's career, man. You just one little thing break their way or not break their way is different. But anyway, Colin Farrell, he's always if you watch some of his performances, he's always played kind of quirky characters, even without the makeup. So if him play the Penguin, it does make sense. And he was pretty much the comedy relief in the Batman, right? I got you. I told you I got. Remember that scene when he thought he blew up Batman? I got you. I got you. And Batman came out and just ran him over. And so that was funny. And so now they did this whole TV show about him, man. And I came in skeptical about it all and just let me just check it out. I really enjoyed it, man. I scratched that mob itch, but also scratched that he's not the Penguin like we know. He's like a mid-level guy, and he's doing things to get to that top level. And I always like those stories, the come up, man, the come up story. And that's what it is. And he's also playing a mix of he's obviously a bad guy, but he's got vulnerability, right? He's got disability. He's trying to move in the world. So he's got some sympathies, right? And he's vulnerable. But at the same time, if you watch The Sopranos, that's exactly how Tony Soprano was, right? He had a mix of vulnerability and viciousness. And I think that's what's in there, that character. So it's the come up, the mob story, and the mix of the vulnerability with the viciousness. It just all drew me in at one time. I was like, this is way better than it should be. And I was digging it, man. I digged it.
You just gave me an idea. I think it's time for Valiant Comics to come back and have the Valiant Comics cinematic universe. It's time.
Exo the Robot Hunter, was that? Is that
no,
Turok,
no.
the dinosaur?
Magnus Robot Fighter, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Exo Man of War, Shadow Man, Solar Man, Adam. Oh my God.
Wrong. I got it all wrong. Dang.
Love me some Valiant, boy. Bring it back.
Obviously. Was Bloodshot a part of that too?
Yes.
Shout
out to Vin Diesel for trying to start the engine. I respect what Vin Diesel did there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you going to watch the Penguin based on my recommendation?
Yes, I will. Not week to week, though.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll catch up at the end and see what you think. Like I said, one episode, but I think you might dig it, man. I think you might, if you like mob movies, if you like the come up story, if you like good performance, and there's a good performance by the actress that plays Sophia, the daughter of Carmine that died in the Batman, and her story. And I think this is not a spoiler, but it's out there. I think that the thing is people want to probably may have more Easter eggs in this TV show. Like if they're going to be in Arkham, can we get some shout outs to actual psychologists we know that work there, right? Or something like that. But man, but I forgot about that series. What is it? Gotham. Remember that TV show that ran for like 7 years? So there's been so many different iterations. And then they even did a show about Pennyworth, about his prequel, about how he became Pennyworth. So there's so many things you can do with the Batman. And so now they're doing basically a high profile crime drama about the Penguin. So it's just, I'm digging it, man. I'm digging it.
All right. I won't ask any questions. I was about to, but I'll get into it and see what happens.
I love it.
Happy Batman Week. Happy Black Batman Week. I don't believe I just bat washed Black Batman Week.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Gotham doesn't see color.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of something that is not as insightful and heartwarming, Mr. Benja, have you heard of Rawdogging?
Unfortunately, yes. And not the Rawdogging that I know of. But yes, I've heard of this new era of Rawdogging.
Yeah, we're a little older. That means something totally different. When I saw it, I was like, "What?"
On a plane? You can't do that on a plane.
I thought the same thing. I was like, "These dudes are wilding. Let me check this out, man." So
what did you find?
Yeah, man, there is these group of young men, always young men, who are challenging themselves to take these long ass flights, basically anything over 6 hours. And typically you're on a long flight like that, right? You like to have a little drink, watch some movies, listen to some music, maybe go to sleep. Guess what? They're having none of that. These dudes are sitting there for the whole 6 hours, nothing, no drink, no sleep, no music, no movies. All they get to watch is the flight on their screen. They'll fly. Have you ever been on the plane? There's a section on the screen where you can watch the flight path and just watch it tick slowly across the country or to other places, other countries, slowly on the map. And that's what these guys are doing. And you see the picture, it's the funniest thing. James, find that picture somewhere. I know you will. But the guy is sitting there next to this family, just sitting there bundled up, watching TV. and there's a guy sitting there straight up looking dead head like this, just ready to raw dog for the next 6 hours on this flight from New York to Paris. Love it. But yeah, man, when we saw that, man, I think I just cracked up, and I wanted to share with you, Mr. Bench, that people are finding new ways to challenge themselves for what I don't know. Maybe it's just bragging rights on the internet now. That's all this is. I don't know. What do you think?
Hey, somebody online said that men don't have enough they don't have enough of a certain type of classical challenge, so they come up with stuff like this. And what I mean by the classical challenge is they used to get up, go hunt. You'd have to walk down to the gas station and get like a couple tanks of little gasoline and walk it back if you're running low on tractor fuel or something. There were just all these things that people had to do. And without that, some people were theorizing, men and women were theorizing that stuff like this just pops up. Whereas, okay, let's all of a sudden start doing MMA. Okay, let's all of a sudden start doing these crazy, what do you call them, tough mutters and all this. And now it's for the pedestrian kid. What are you going to do? I'm a raw dog of flight. So I don't know.
Just how you say it too, just funny to us. Well, it's just, you're right, man. I never thought of it like that. Just that it's almost like Fight Club. You remember that scene where Brad Pitt told Edward Norton's character, just as said, there are no great wars. The Great Depression is our lives. And there's this sense of our generation not really having, yes, there's war and poverty all over the world, but for some reason, countries that are rich and doing well, like America, young men don't have a lot of challenges, right? And so they're making up stuff to be challenged by. And so, to your point, that's just a nature of being a young man. You need to go out and make your way in the world. And when there's so many different things that people are successful at, you got to find one little niche in the world that I can be the expert at. I raw dogged a flight for 6 hours. Yes. Or I stayed up all night to beat this video game. And so these dopamine
Right.
hits are coming hard and fast for young men looking for success, because the traditional metric of success, right? Money or fame or women or whatever, is just not there anymore. And they're finding all kinds of ways to stand out some kind of way.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. Kai Sanat and SvB, or just known as Speed sometimes, two influencers, young kids who are Twitch streamers, and they go all around the world talking to people and doing stuff. So, one thing that's been going around the Twitch community is playing through difficult games. And of
Mhm.
course, it's funny for people to watch because they're dying, they're falling in pits, they're losing hours. So, they played this game called, I think, Chain Together. I think it's a variation of Only Up. Basically, it's a game where you keep climbing, right? You're just going up and up and up. I don't know if you've heard of this game,
Mm.
but if something happens, like you're not paying attention and a vulture swoops by and hits you in the middle of a jump, or the ice starts to break or whatever, you slide off, you fall like really far. And it's one big long level. So you're sitting there playing the game and somebody falls from 5 levels above and lands on your little motor scooter and you fly off the side of the edge. You're like, no. The point of it is basically to be infuriating. And
Mhm.
Kai and Speed played this game. I had never seen so much joy, I'll call it, just excitement, elation, that feeling of crossing a finish line, winning a Super Bowl. They did for this, Minecraft, and now they're going on to some other game, Elder Ring, I think. But it reminded me of that. I saw that same joy of experience of, yeah, winning a football game or getting a scholarship and being selected in front of the student body and everybody stands up clapping. It blew my mind how much excitement there was, not just them, in the comments too. So there is something
Mhm.
there.
No, we just talked about the Olympics, right? The dedication goes,
Yeah.
these are all young folks, right? In their 20s, that the decades that went into shaving off a 0.04 second speed off the 100 meters and dedicate, and the elation of winning the gold. You're right. That same dopamine hit that they're getting from Olympics, they're getting from a video game, which, let's be honest, is nothing that is as earth shattering, but it gives you that sense of accomplishment. So yeah, man, maybe we'll dig deeper into that on another day on another topic, because I think I even seen it with my young son. He's 8, and his cousins, they're all into gameplay, right? That's always a young man thing. I just realized that, but it just, that sense of accomplishment and addiction, I think we're gonna see that get worse and worse, man. These younger kids, man, they're getting so much more addicted. But yeah, we were into games. I don't know, maybe because of the ubiquitous of how many games there are and how many different ways you can do it. But it just seems like it's so easy. It's almost like the iPad, man. You take the iPad away, boy, from these kids, man. It's like that fiend off that pipe, man. It's just don't do it. So we went to Comic-Con. So I'll pivot here real quick. But we went to Comic-Con. I told my young nephew, I said, "Hey, man, look, he's 6 though, so he's still young." I said, "Look, no iPad." So they were raw dogging it in the back seat of the car with no iPad, just looking, no talking, nothing, just looking mad because then I had the iPad, right? Because we were driving, took about 30 minutes to get to the convention center. But
30
yeah,
minutes, that's a lifetime.
oh, to them, that was a lifetime, but they were raw dogging because they had no iPad, man. It was just hilarious. And then we got to the place, and so I made a little game. I said, okay, look, we have a scavenger hunt. I brought all my nieces and nephews. So it was about 6 of them. So I split them into teams. I said, go find Thor's hammer, go find Spider-Man with no mask, go find a fairy. And then I put some sports stuff in there and said, just in case, go find someone with some Jordans on. So they went around taking pictures of kids. And so I think they had a good time just being in that environment, just seeing all the different cosplayers,
cool.
right? And the artists, man, the artistry that goes into this stuff, man, that these cosplayers put into it, man, it's amazing. And it's also, I think I sent you a photo of it, man. It's just interesting how Convergence, 2 things are happening. Number one, nostalgia play. We talk about that, where people are going back in time and saying, hey, remember this? Wasn't that cool when? And we see a lot of that playing out more and more so with some of the cosplayers and some of the artists. But one thing I'm also noticing, there was a poster, James, we'll send it to you, but there's a poster of Deadpool on the Game of Thrones. And so it was like this mix of genres or different IPs coming together. And so that's becoming more of a thing. These creators are like, how can we stay relevant? Oh, I know. Let's just put everything together in a big hodgepodge and just say, hey, Deadpool, he's sitting on the Game of Thrones, or Deadpool's hanging out with whoever, and just makes it exciting more. And so it's just interesting, the nostalgia play and this unison of all these different genres into one piece of art. What are your thoughts on that and how this is evolving from cosplayers and just the whole nerd scene, if you will?
Yeah, it's weird. Back in the day, you used to have a video game arcade, a comic book store, a group of people that played board games, a group of people that collected miniatures, groups of people that went out and did hiking / LARPing. It's just your D&D crowd. There were these crowds, and there was a little overlap. Like you'd have the comic book people and the D&D people only together, but only because the comic book shop sold both. It's not like they were really overlapping crowds. They did, but there was a separation. Anyway, I think it's weird because over time it slowly started to come together, and I think we really recognized this in Comic-Con when they allowed video games into Comic-Con. And then you start seeing movies at Comic-Con, and at E3 you started seeing comic book stuff and cosplaying at E3, which was a video game convention. And so you start seeing all this cross-pollination of a certain type of mindset. I don't even know. It's a certain entertainment bubble conglomeration. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely been growing and connecting in weird ways. I don't know what it means. Everything's just all kind of bubbling together as nerd shit.
Yeah, just a big cauldron of nerds.
Uh-oh. I sense choppiness. Don't know if that's on my end or Theo's end.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear? Yeah, I'm back, man. So I just got excited about nerd shit. I got in the cauldron of nerd shit.
He blew up the interwebs.
But you're right. It's just this hodgepodge of just everything in the boat, man. And I was telling my niece, I said, look, I know a lot of this stuff, like movies, I'm pretty good with TV shows, like obscure characters on TV shows, even some comic book stuff. But man, that anime, man, I couldn't tell you Naruto from Dragon Ball Z, man. Gita or Vita or whatever you want to call it. And so that's the one area I'm like, or Pikachu and all that. Those are the things that's my blind spot when it comes to nerd shit. But so I was walking around, I saw some stuff. Somebody had some obscure Umbrella Academy reference. And I was like, man, that's cool, man. So he
Yeah.
smiled, that big smile cosplayers get when someone recognizes them. Yeah, man, thanks. So, but yeah, man, a lot of the anime stuff I could not get at all.
Yeah, and as I said, the anime and video game stuff is starting to cross over. I remember at one point, I was trying to figure out what anime somebody was from, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, you're from League of Legends?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's a video game." And I was like, "Oh, okay. We're just this whole
Mm,
convergence is."
yeah. Good point. Yeah, because I was remember back in the day, Capcom, Street Fighter, they merged because we were playing. They had an area where you play old school console games, right? So they had Capcom. Remember X-Men versus Street Fighter. So you
Yeah,
get to
that
pick
too.
all the yep. So that was like on the earliest versions of that, right? Just this convergence of comic books and movie games and things like that. So it is so people get confused. That's X-Men versus Street Fighter. Are they real? Where's this coming from? It's all kind of converging on this stuff, but and it's almost everything's mid. It's like very hard for stuff to bubble up. That's really unique. We talked about. I can name on one hand the stuff we talked about that was like really great. That come from nerd culture, which is Blue Eye Samurai. That was
Mhm.
excellent, right? We had talked about something else that was excellent that we got excited about recently.
You're talking about what is it, Squid Game?
Yep, Squid Game, that was excellent, but it's like few and far between. It's and when it comes, you're like, I don't know about this, but then you watch it, "Oh, that was amazing," and that's what I live for, man. Just that one, you get it maybe 3 times a year. Once like the Bear, you enjoyed the Bear, and I put you onto
Yeah.
that, but it's just, and that's not really a genre show, but it's like when you get a genre show that bubbles up, we'll talk about a genre show that did not bubble up and is in fact canceled, but it could have, and it would have changed everything. But it's just, man, can we just get good storytelling? And I don't fault the creators. I know they're doing their best, but it's just, I guess it's just hard to do it when everybody knows all the different genres and the different things, and every creator has a take on these characters and what they can
Yeah.
do, what they can't do. It's so hard to create something unique, different, and cohesive. I don't know. You're an artist. You tell
Yeah,
me, Mr.
it's
Bridges.
it's funny because there's always circumstance, and
Mhm.
George Lucas has a little spiel about this where no matter what you're doing, people think you're just creating in a bubble, and no, you have circumstances that you have to deal with where, and basically he's talking about resources of time, the situation. A movie comes out 6 months before yours, and it takes all the ideas that you had and makes them funny, and yours were supposed to be serious. So now you're like, "Oh, crap. They tapped into that same creative vibe, but they went funny with it." Now, if we come out with the same thing, it's not gonna seem impactful. It's gonna seem like a joke because they joked about it. So now you have 6 months to rearrange everything, possibly do some reshoots. It's a never-ending stream of stuff coming in from the left, the right, the internal, external problems. I shouldn't say problems, challenges. I was listening to Tim Burton. He was just talking about there's a new article out with him in the Variety, I think it was, where he spoke about his creative past, and he was like, "Yeah, I got to do great work on the first Batman, and they didn't think it was gonna be a big success, and he was just working out Batman, and it was like, 'Hey, what's this? Prince got some idea. Oh, Prince, okay, let's get some ideas from him,' and it was just a cool creative thing. And then he got more freedom on the Batman Returns, but then more people were watching.
Yeah.
He technically had more freedom, but with so many more people around, they got in his ear and were like, "Hey, how come the penguin what's that black stuff coming out the penguin's mouth? Can somebody give me a brief on that? I wanna understand what that is." And
Wow.
so while he's in the middle of working, the makeup department's, "Wait, should we stop putting the black stuff in his mouth? Do we need to refilm those scenes?" And
Yeah.
Tim Burton was just like, "Yo, this is screwing up the entire process." Just
Yeah,
it's
man. You're
tough.
right, man. It's just the context matter. I like that. We'll talk about later with the other series, but you're right. I think the context matter when it released. What's the economic environment? What's the environment around the subject and genre you're portraying?
Yeah.
You're right. If someone released something beforehand, so you can create something in this bubble, right? It's, oh, this is great. I think people excited about it, but then once it's released out there, then it changes everything. So yeah, man, it's what's that Greek myth? Was it Sisyphus? Is that how you
Sisyphus
pronounce it?
pushing the rock up the hill.
Yeah, that's the, I guess that's the art. That's the artist. You're
Yeah.
constantly trying to get it over, and maybe one time in your career you do it. Some people do it multiple times, but it almost seems like he did all this work and now the boulder's back at, you're down to square one because everybody hated all the effort and work we did
Yeah.
and they have no clue. So yeah, man, kudos to artists out
Oh, you know
there.
what? It's funny. Not all creatives, but a lot of creatives talk about Sisyphus in a positive way, where
Wow.
it's like the idea was never to get the rock up the hill. It's just the fun of figuring out what a rock's gonna do, how the mountain's gonna slide, and if it's nighttime or daytime. It's the whole fun process of like, how far can I get this rock before I trip and fall and before it runs me over, before it
And
goes
you know
down.
what, Mr. Benja, guess what? That's the great mindset to have as an artist. Reframe,
Yes.
something that's supposed to be jury. Because they talk about this, athletes do that all the time, right? You miss a shot, you can't dwell on that. You move on to the next one. So you
Yeah.
buffer in the defeat and the pain and agony that goes into being great and make it a positive so that you can become great. Yeah, I love that thought about making it man, oh man, I don't care about the boulder falling down. I just love the shape of the boulder and what the and that gives you energy to push that boulder back up again when it inevitably falls back down.
Yeah.
So I love it, man.
I
Good
am
stuff.
I am forever fascinated by the bullshit I create. When a character is taken to a pinnacle and then you think you're done with them, you put them in bronze and you set them up on your mantle, and it's all right. That's that. We can rely on that being finished. And then it's but wait, like, oh come on, man, what are you doing? Don't take it down off the mantle. Don't break it out of the bronze and try to. It's iffy. I'm excited, but it's iffy.
But you know what? They've been doing this as long as we can get in movies, man. We just had two movies that came out this year. Axel F, played by 63-year-old Eddie Murphy, reliving his
But we
glory
needed to
days.
send off for him because Beverly Hills Cop 3 was so awful.
It was. But I'm just saying, so this my rolling around a point here. 63-year-old Eddie Murphy returning to a character. We had Bad Boys 4 with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, both in their late 50s, coming back. You got Tom Cruise out here jumping out planes in his 60s. And then you got Clint Eastwood still riding around in Turismo in his 80s. So I don't know if these actors, as long as people are still buying tickets, me and Mr. Benja did a pod on this. Remember, Mr. Benja, the medium age of a Hollywood superstar now is in his 50s, right? Late 50s, right? There's
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
and they would say there's only like 5 that were below 30, like Tom Holland, it was like Zendaya. That's it. So we're going to keep seeing these older actors coming back to roles over and over again because they're known quantities. And just like in basketball right now, me and Pete know about this. Like you got these guys staying around longer and longer in their 30s. And back in the day, most of these guys flamed out like around like 29, 30.
My knee, get me off the court.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, better medicine, better steroids, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, I'm sure this character, we'll talk about this actor. I'm sure he's on something. He's on the clear to get that physique. He's on
Yeah.
the clear. Why are you, man? How old are you now? Are you hitting home runs like that? Come on, man. So I don't know, Mr. Benja. I do think it cheapens it, but it's just it's almost baked into the cake now that these guys are gonna be playing these roles until their 80s. As long as people are gonna see them. We got Harrison Ford still playing Indiana Jones, and he's in his 80s.
Yeah, it really is hard to do a proper handoff strategy, and it's legitimately hard because even if the story's there, even if the lore is there, the people who are developing it just when you're in the midst of developing something, it's just so easy to fall back on we did this last time. What about this story? And what about this? And once that stuff starts creeping in, it's hard to stop. And same thing with Star Wars that we definitely talked about. You mentioned Harrison Ford. It's listen, I know these dudes did their thing. I thought it was brilliant to have Luke sitting off somewhere where nobody could touch him. It was great to have Harrison Ford off and God knows where nobody could touch him, just smuggling something. But you saw the difficulty when they tried to bring him back in and have this handoff. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying good or bad. I don't want to get into the Star Wars discussion again. You can blame me in the comments later. But it's hard, man. And with this Victor Von Doom as
Yeah.
Tony Stark, I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, yeah. And I would just say this nostalgia, shout out to the Midnight Boys at the Ringer. They gave me this idea. Said nostalgia never ages. because, people always ready to see the older actor play the same role over again. And it's just that nostalgia play. We want to see Robert. We want to feel like we felt back in '08 when he first showed up as Tony Stark, right?
Man, go see Boys to Men in Vegas if you want that old stuff. Outta here with that.
Man, I tell you, man, nostalgia is powerful, man. What's his name? What's shoot from Madman, boy? It's powerful, man, because it's like is mixed with bittersweetness because you remember that time, remember who you were, and you were younger. It's probably his better time, but it's also painful because you never go back to that. So that's why nostalgia is so powerful, especially now with there's no sense of what the future could look like right anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, speaking of what the future's gonna look like at Comic-Con, Marvel really only dropped information on 3 movies: the new Captain America, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts. Were you expecting more, less, or is this about what you wanted? What you think, Pete?
I'm good with it. When you think about what's on deck for them, what's going to be coming out, it makes sense. And especially with everything that happened and what was it? The last movie, it was the King Dynasty, and now they've had to change course. And obviously, that was the news that I think everybody wanted. I don't know if anyone wanted really much beyond that, because obviously a lot of things are going to change in the story and whatever they were developing prior to King Dynasty, and now everything's got to be changed for Doomsday. So I'm good with what they announced. I'm still processing Robert Downey Jr. as Doomsday. That's going to take some time.
Do you think the Fantastic Four is that kind of a draw? It's got you talking about Pedro Pascal going up against Robert Downey Jr. I don't know.
Man, that's really interesting. When you look at star power, it's obviously a very interesting cast, but I think they're all good actors. I mean, I love Pedro Pascal. What's her name? Is it Vanessa Kirby? That's going to be Miss Fantastic. And the guy from Stranger Things, I forget his name, and then the dude from The Bear. Like, to me, those are actually more interesting than Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby, because both those guys are good actors, and they're slipping into roles where they might not be seen, but they'll be talking. If Johnny lights up in Human Torch, and he's going to be talking like that at times. And the guy from The Bear is a great actor, but he's going to be the Thing too for probably the majority of the movie. So to me, that's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because I still have a bad taste in my mouth from the Fantastic Four that was released 20 years ago.
What about the one that was released about 10 years ago with Michael B. Jordan? That was
the hope is that they finally, Marvel's obviously been able to do any successful in all their movies. I'm not saying
have they?
I mean, they have a good track record, is what I'm saying. They have a good track record with their movies. And by the way, I'm not a Marvel fanboy at all. These guys know that. And I think that it'll be interesting to see them tackle Fantastic Four, which has struggled to get up and ongoing when they're known as Marvel's first family. Like, they should have been probably in the Infinity War series at some point. Hopefully they have found the ways to make it work for now.
Hopefully it's better than The Incredibles. Because for a long time now, I've been thinking, The Incredibles, that's the best Fantastic Four movie I've ever seen.
I've heard that many times. Yeah.
Facts. They can make it like that. But it's fantastic work when we have TV shows like Invincible and The Boys that kind of have depowered and really made fun of the superhero genre and now those are getting more played in traditional superhero stories now. Even Deadpool, which we'll talk about later. I mean, that's the antithesis of being a hero and what it's all about, right? And so and it reminds me of the 90s, Mr. Benja, right? The 90s, man. That's what we read in comic books, right? We just saw Rob Liefeld and X-Force and just very in-your-face storytelling. There was nothing about, heck, even I think that's when Spider-Man had the whole clone mess that happened in that period. So just very cynical. Carnage came out in that time. So it's just like,
right.
That's what we're experiencing you have the uplift that the Tony Stark 2008, yay, superheroes can do it. And now we got, superheroes suck. They're just the worst. Look at The Boys. So how did the superheroes get out of that phase? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Can the movies do the same? I don't know if Fantastic Four is that type of property for that. I read some good Fantastic Four stories, but it's a family. Let's be honest. It's like, how do you make that interesting visually, I guess?
Families ain't cool.
So anyway, Thunderbolts I'm interested in. We'll see what they do with that property, but someone said it was the Walmart Suicide Squad. I don't know. We'll see.
Red Hulk.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna be in Captain America, Black Falcons. That's Black American. That's what we call Captain America. Sorry.
Love it.
We call him Captain Black Falcon American. Wait, what is it? I get it right?
Black American, Falcon. It don't matter. The adjectives just they jumble together.
Captain Black Wilson American Falcon.
But anyways, we'll see what they did. But to your point, now that we got an endpoint where we're going to Robert Downey Jr., is he gonna pop up in these end credit scenes now, right? And get us excited.
Wait a minute. Whatever happened to all the talk about New Avengers? Did they just shove that under the rug? The whole, what's her name? Echo, Hawkeye's protege,
Blade.
Miss Marvel.
There's a lot of stuff we could talk about. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Avengers, yeah. The New Avengers, yeah.
I want to call them the New Avengers, but yeah, the Young Avengers.
Young Avengers, that's right.
And
Yeah.
Hulkling, that's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Businessman, you got to stop the bleeding. And so this is what Robert Downey Jr., he's like the big cleanup to stop the bleeding before they move on to something else. So I think that there's a big old cut Nash in the arm. So we got to put Robert Downey Jr. on it so we can get the blood pumping back into the body. And then we can start focusing on other body parts. So everything else is secondary to getting Robert Downey Jr. Pumped back into the MCU. So that's why I think happened to all these properties.
I was going through some things, man. And I don't know why, but in the middle of going through some things, I was like, let me go through the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. I went through our YouTube comments, and I love all of you all. I think you're great. Flame me in the comments. Let's go. I think the conversation is generally fun, whatever. But I'm in the YouTube comments, and I missed the fact that we had struck such a nerve with the Hatsune Miku crowd. You remember the computer generated character? So one thing I said in there was, I assume that they're going to add AI into her productions in the future. The community went after me for that one. They were going in. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was a valid assumption, but the way it came out, or the way the clip was read, or the way it was edited, maybe, it made it sound like I was saying that Hatsune Miku is an AI thing. And that's not what I was putting out there. Basically, Hatsune is an instrument, if you will. So people do things, and she performs their creations. So the way she dances and song, the lyrics, the voice gets changed. So you can sing something and it goes through and ends up sounding like Hatsune. So there's this whole artistic community, real people with real talent. I want to make that clear. Real people with real talent putting work into making these performances.
Gotcha.
So $225 is still a lot to pay for a concert ticket, but that's for anybody, by the way. I'm not just saying, that's for anybody. But that is surprising to a lot of people. So we put it out there, and I thought that was interesting. Point is, just a fair bit of confusion on the terms I'm using, the terms you're using, the understanding of technology, my perspective on it, your perspective on it. If any of those things don't line up, then all of a sudden we've got a mismatch and we're fighting, and we don't really need to be. Because if you say AI, are you talking about machine learning? Are you talking about adaptive generative artificial intelligence? Or are you talking about automation? One of the very earliest games, Populous, used automation and randomly procedurally generated worlds and levels. We could argue on what it actually means to use quote unquote AI. But I thought it was interesting in that whole discussion. Nobody wanted to bring up, okay, what are you trying to say? Or, hey, how come you? It was just boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. And I was like, huh. That was my dodge move, where I dodging tomatoes. I'm here
Mr. Benja. Yeah, you're better than me, man. I'm not looking at these comments and just now looking through them. Oh yeah, they flamed us. But you know what, man? I don't know. Maybe I just don't. Not that I don't care, and it's just more. Look, everybody has their opinions, and they're going to stay their opinions.
Yeah.
I'd rather have, to your point, I think we're trying to get like this with this community we're trying to build. Just have an open, honest conversation with us, right? Don't just assume. I think we're two woke bros. I know that's not a way to say that now, but anyway, but we are ones who listen and are trying to learn. And so if you want to correct us, let us know, guys. Be open and honest with us, but don't assume that we just are saying things out our butt. We try to be as insightful about what we say. But nah, I'm glad you go through that, Mr. Benja, with the comments and stuff, and try to have insightful conversations. Because you wrote paragraphs over here, guys. This Mr. Benja could do a lot of things. He's out here writing paragraphs to the comment sections, man. Who does that?
This is
James,
this is
put that on wax. We write paragraphs back to our commenters.
no, don't raise expectations. But no, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to actually, for me, to not have the conversation, not to have the discussion, not to have an argument. The fun part is, okay, how can I understand better where this person's coming from, or how might this have gone wrong, or why is this a subject for intense debate? And that's a never ending topic. I was about to say ever since, but it doesn't stop. The debate, the arguing over things that probably shouldn't be argued about in a lot of situations goes back to the beginning of humanity. So I am obviously not going to stop anything like that large, but I'm in there learning, having fun, and meeting all
Well,
flame in the comments.
I love it. I love it. So did you see some of since we're talking about commenters in our YouTube channel, you want to shout out a couple of ones that got a high likes here when we did the Black Superman? Do you want to talk about that briefly? Or you want me to write that up?
I didn't jump into all those comments for the Black Superman. Let's see.
Yeah, there was a couple that got some great likes and stuff. And look, we're gonna shout you guys out. Look, we want to have conversations, man. This is what it's about. At Agent Maryland 1239 said, I don't understand the process of changing a character's ethnicity. I feel like that distracts the value from that character's existence. They don't exist to fit some social media agenda. They exist to bring entertainment to be loved and accepted by the community that grows from them. What we should be doing is making more new characters that come from more backgrounds, expanding on characters who generally take a back seat, much like the ones listed here. And I got 44 likes. And I think that kind of along the sentiment we were communicating in that short. So yeah, I think that's good. I think the community agrees with what we're saying here in this comment, because I agree that the Black Superman, I think what you said, and I agree with it too. Let's do more original stories with Black characters, superheroes that we already have, right? Not just try to, what's the word? Not color wash, but I forgot what they call it, but change the color of the character to reflect something else, right? They don't have to do that. They just make more of the characters that already exist, that are already African American, make them better characters, right? Create a Rose Gallery, right? For the Blue Marvel or for Black Lightning, just create better villains, compelling stories. Black Panther, can you name who Black Panther's #1 villain is? I know I can't.
If you talk about aside from Killmonger, there's
Killmonger, that's right.
what's the other guy? But there's like 2 other guys he always goes up against. And if you're talking about Captain America, most people won't recognize Arnim Zola or a Red Skull. They recognize Red Skull, but there's the Baron, all these other characters. Taskmaster, which everybody poo-pooed on because for whatever reason, Taskmaster was played out like it was. Once again, being female wasn't the problem. It's the way they played the character. But yeah, anyway, I think one of those things about these types of discussions is people arguing over the tribes. Like we said, people like us do things like this, or this is ours, this is not yours. And then people start talking about gatekeeping. And there are a lot of different ways to talk about this. And I think we can go into the acolyte in a little bit on this. But it's a really difficult problem because I was talking with Andy and we realized something. We were talking about some property. I forgot what it was, but I realized I was looking at it from a gamer's point of view because I play and develop games, or used to, where I'm thinking of, I'm taking this character, I do these things, I aspire to do what this character does, I feel power in my hands, I'm playing out a certain role. That's me. So you don't change me. On the other hand, Andy, he comes from the world of theater, actual stage plays and things, curtains, lights, and all that. That's literally taking an idea and putting different people in the outfit to see how it plays out differently with
Mm,
different people, different characters. If we have the main character in Chicago doing a rendition of a play, what does that play look like if instead of a fat man in Chicago, we do tall, skinny Asian woman in that character's role when we run it in San Francisco?
mm,
And that's very valid as an art form. Let's see how the story plays out when we look at it from different angles. Let's see how these different characters play out. So I've noticed that mindset in a lot of people who are creating content, or when I'm saying content, creating these productions. They're like, hey, let's see what happens if we take the mantle of a character and we switch out another character. Let's see what
mhm,
happens let's see that presentation.
mhm,
And for a long time, I didn't understand that because I was so deep in the gamer mindset of this is the character that does that thing. This is the character that does this thing.
mhm,
I was so in that mindset, it was hard for me to see that there are other ways to look at a character.
mm,
Not saying that they shouldn't be, and this goes back to the Black Superman example. I'm like, yeah, that's going Superman is one thing, does things a certain way. We have other characters that can better tell, I think, the black story. But then other people are like, why not have a black Superman? You saying we can't do it? I'm like, that's a valid argument, but that's not what I'm
it is.
saying.
Yeah.
So
Look, we have a black Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and he's got a whole different storyline and everything, and he's a beloved character. And I think that's possible as well, to your point. But I guess the way they present it sometimes it almost become sensationalized, right? It's, oh, hey guys, it would be cool a black Superman. You're like, wait a minute, hold up. I mean,
right.
why would just? I think the way the marketing spin is they try to make it cooler than it is, as opposed to say, hey, there's this character. Oh, and by the way, he does this. He flies around. He came from a different planet. Blah 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, he's black. Because everything else, why do you
Right.
have to steal his characteristics down to just his visual look, right? As opposed to what he does. And so I think that's in essence what Martin Luther King was talking about, right? The character, what's it, the inside the man, I'm getting the quote wrong, but the character, the content of their character, right? Not the look of their skin. So I think those are the things that we want to communicate more on this podcast. So Mr. Benjamin, you know what? People want to talk about they're not like this, they're not like that. Guess what, Mr. Benjamin? I'm
They
talking
not like
about, man. They're not like us, man. Are we gonna get into it, man?
that's what it all comes down to, essentially. They not like us.
They not like us. That's what we're talking about here, man. Mr. Benja, man, I'm gonna move on and talk about Kendrick Lamar blowing up social media on 4th of July with the release of They're Not Us, They Not Like Us video, man. So, Mr. Benja, first of all, where were you when you saw this? And then high level, what was your initial thoughts when you saw this and watched it a couple of times and to get it all in?
I'm glad that you said watched it a couple times because you knew automatically that I didn't just watch it once. I stopped and watched it a couple times. Yeah, man, this whole thing has been a bit of a master class on putting together a rollout of an art project. I'm going to call this
Mhm.
whole thing an art project. And it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's been building up for years, several years. The subliminal disses from way back, we talked about the messing with the industry and who you're faithful to and where you represent. When I saw this, man, the video dropped, and I think it was 3 hours in, 3 hours after it had been released on YouTube. I noticed it and I was like, huh, okay. I went to click on it and it said like one of the first comments was, dang, it already got this many million views in 1 hour. And I was like, oh, okay, this thing is blowing up. Even before watching it, I verified that the link was the actual video and posted it to one of my Facebook groups. And I was like, all right, let's bubble it over there. Let me watch this and then jump in the comments later. Man, I was impressed. This video, you're impressed when you don't understand everything, but you're like, wait, hold on, what was that? I don't even understand it. That's really intriguing right there. What was that? And I did that a few times during the video because there's just references and things that artistically, when you see something and it's intentional, but you don't understand it, you're like, okay, why was that in there? Why was that like that? I may come back to that later, or it may just be one of those things that I don't understand. Starting with the clown and everything, dog, it's Tommy the Clown, by the way.
Yep.
It's awful.
Grandfather of crumpet. Let's put it out there. That's
Yeah,
just the art
a
form
form
that
of
came.
dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, that just came out of LA scene, right? So yeah, that's what they had to start with. Mr. Benja, not to interject here real quick, but I'm not an artist like you, right? But even I think you can just tell the depth and intentionality that goes into art, right? When you watch a movie or read a book, like, oh, they thought about this, right? Even Game of Thrones, man. Do you read? If you listen to some of the theories and stuff that go on, this guy created this whole world, thousands of years in his mind, and people have theories. They're scholars of game because of one guy. So that means the depth of his knowledge is so deep when it comes to that. The intentionality is there, and that's why they're so beloved, right? The Game of Thrones series. Likewise, Kendrick Lamar came in, just a depth of knowledge, very specific to LA, conversate the history of LA, what it means, but also still being part of the diss track and what does that mean and what he was doing there with OVO and the owl and all that. And then just the connection to the community, being part of the crowd at the end and just saying, hey, they're not like us and I'm with y'all, I'm us. So it's just like this. And he conveyed through imagery everything he was saying in his words, right? And so I thought that, and then even little sub rips at some of the discs that came at him, dropping, giving 50, he's doing push-ups.
Yeah.
So it's just, he knew it. As we talk about the beef itself, Mr. Benja, I think we all knew Kendrick won. He thoroughly defeated Drake so bad, it's not even funny, man, because obviously he came in probably more critically acclaimed hip hop artist, the one that's lyrical, the one that's conscious, but Drake had the hits, right? He was just dropping dimes. But then when Kendrick beat him at his own game, and now this is the song of the summer, the bop of the summer, that's
and a highly lyrical one at that, which is more and more rare in this era, where it's not just a vibe, a summer vibe. There's actually some complicated stuff going on there with the musicality, the lyricism, the levels,
and the fact that it's so specific too. It's not just generalized. Oh, it's control. This is a beat to this, or this is a beat to that. This is strictly an LA type of sound, LA type of vibe, but it's universally loved. And I think they said there's universality in the specific, right? So if you're very specific with your storytelling, people can pull out of it different things. So you just have to be very specific. And so he is specific about LA. And if you know some of the LA folks that pop up in there, right? That's what it's about. And so I love that aspect.
Yeah, hats off, man. I was really impressed. And I want to reiterate that it's not so much about Drake. Drake is a figurehead of a bigger problem where for decades now, we've watched hip hop become more and more, as far as media companies are concerned, we've watched hip hop get taken into this shell of itself where they're like, oh, okay, you guys like guns and dancing. Okay, more guns, more dancing. We're putting it out there like that. That's what we want to see. And so, no, you can't separate the plant from the soil. It'll die. It's, oh, we just want the pretty flowers and all that. And I was like, no, you can't separate the plant from the soil. And for years, that's what it seems like was happening. So now Kendrick comes back and I'm the soil. I'm here with all my other, we've got deep roots in this, literally and figuratively in many ways, roots.
I can't remember a time that this has created a whole new vibe for LA, right? LA is just such, people transplants, they try to be actors. There's no culture in LA. But do you remember NWA came out, blew up, and that just put that sound, right? Because East Coast was always doing stuff. And I can't remember, been hits there, a few folks here and there, but I think this is the first time literally that LA is driving sound again when it comes to music with Kendrick. So kudos to him.
Did you mean to wear that hat today?
If you don't know, I'm from LA, guys. Grew up in Culver City. And what? And if you don't know, also shout out to Bronny James being drafted by the Lakers. Yes. Lakers are not going to be good this year. I'm just telling you that because we got a coach that just coaches his son's fourth grade class, and now he's an NBA coach. But kudos to the Lakers, man. We're just going to be memes all day. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm an LA fan, true and true. and grew up in LA, and so still in my heart. But maybe one day I get back out there, Mr. Bishop. But yes, that's why I wrote to talk about Kendrick.
Yeah. So let me just throw some theories out there that people may have caught or may not have caught. The whole vibe of the music video, it's been told, is basically a trial. So it starts out them going into that, when they go into that room, it's who has access to this whole trial that we're about to have. And it's a closed group of people. It's a closed kind of situation. It's not for everybody. And then right then you have his group of peers. Everybody's sitting down in the room. The DJ is like the judges stand. So it's like a classroom, a jury, a interrogation room. It's got so many different angles you could take from it that anybody who says they've got it all figured out, I almost don't believe you, because that's not how a lot of art works. A lot of art just is stuff from different places that happens to work together. And man, yeah, starting it with a group of jurors, just, if you want to look at it like that.
Even the part when he does that whole section, the whole verse, basically, where he's talking about Atlanta and he's trying to conflate how Drake is trying to colonize Atlanta, or colonizers did back in the day. And he mentions all the Atlanta rappers. I thought they were going to show up in this, but no, he said this is going to be strictly LA. So he just had the Crumpers just do different moves when he talked about the rappers like Future or Migos and stuff like that in that verse. So I thought that was interesting, because that whole section to me is like, I know he's trying to prove a point to Drake, but it's not really LA. It's really saying Atlanta still is the driving force when it comes to rap and hip hop. So that's interesting to me, how he did not have him appear at all. I think he wanted to make it very specific to Los Angeles culture, right?
Yeah. And you ever eat at Tam's Burgers?
No. LA? No.
Okay. That was the place he was dancing at with, what was his name? Dave.
Okay.
There's the guy who executive produced it. And people keep wondering, why do they keep putting this guy Dave's name out there? Apparently they were supposed to have some beef, and they're out there dancing in front of a burger joint, just like two guys going to have a burger. And it's, oh, we beefing? Nah, man, we eating burgers and fries. What you talking about? What you talking about?
Didn't see what. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, man. Kudos to guys. Look, man, I guess every 4th of July, we should expect something big. So last year was Threads, like we mentioned earlier. This year was Kendrick Lamar. So I'm expecting next year.
On the 4th.
Yep. Next year, 2025, we're looking at, in 2025, isn't that I want to say that's like the 250th anniversary of America. But anyway, I'll look it up. But yeah, man, we got to have some good stuff, man, coming out from somebody next year around this time.
Yeah, if you don't have a blockbuster movie, maybe you have a blockbuster hit song and movement.
Exactly. Good point.
And we got everybody out here trying to learn how to blood walk now, and they're trying to figure out the differences between blood walking and crit walking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be America's 250th birthday on July 4th, 2025. So
yeah,
there you go. Everyone, thank you for your time. Please subscribe and comment at Show vs. Business on Twitter, or X, YouTube, or Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit us at our website at Show vs. Business and check out some information there if you're interested in starting your own YouTube channel and podcast. Mr. Benja, have a great one.
Peace.